SBR exam question number 2, scope. Scope in terms of marks. Scope of question 2. Number 1, marks. Total marks is equal to 25. Total marks 25. Number 2, exam area. Exam area. The exam area is about accounting issues, that means IFRS and IAS knowledge, and oh, I'm sorry, that's 20 marks, not the 25 marks, 20 marks, sorry. 20 marks. Exam area, that's accounting issues. And ethical issues. These two things. So that is about the scope of exam. That is about scope of exam. Moreover, based on past exam analysis, based on past exam analysis, based on past exam analysis, we observed that almost 7 marks about ethics and 18 marks for IAS or IFRS knowledge. That is what about the case. What I personally think, I'm sorry, that's 13. I'm sorry. Out of 20 marks, 7 marks about ethics and 13 marks for IAS and IFRS knowledge. I must say that this part of the exam is easy marks. You can get easy marks. Easy marks handling with this question. I strongly suggest to all of you that 9 past papers plus 2 specimen. I mean, what to do for the next 1 month. 9 past papers and 2 specimen. You must have to make CBE practice with CBE platform. in one go. For example, take out your total 20 hours. For example, you spend 3 days, 7 hours, 7 hours, 7 hours per day. 7 hours per day. And total 11 papers. 11 papers means for each paper you can spend 1 hour. 1 hour for exam simulation, and then 30 to 45 minutes required to check your answer, compare your answer with the model paper. So by one go and spending 21 hours, 7 hours multiplied by 3, for example, 7 hours per day and multiply by 3, or 5 hours per day multiplied by 4, 20 hours plus 1 hour, 4 days. But do that practice at one go and develop your confidence how to handle that particular 20 marks. I will provide you a detailed guideline how to handle the 20 marks question in the exam to handle the things. Do remember that out of 20 marks, 2 marks for this part of the question, it's about professional marks. We will also discuss with this session how to handle that professional marks. This means 2 marks professional and 18 marks for knowledge. 18 marks for knowledge. Out of 18 marks, knowledge, 7 marks for ethical case, and 11 marks for accounting standards. Next 1 month, spare total 21 hours and practice all pass exam plus specimen exam at one go. That's important. This is my recommendation. This is my recommendation. That's important. Automatically, your confidence will build accordingly. But do remember, practice here means I'm going to replace simulate all pass exams and a specimen exam at one go. That's important. So are you people getting the, can you please reply me? Are you people getting the point? How to, what is about the scope of that particular scope and how to make preparation accordingly? That's important. Now, the very important thing is that whenever you will start that question, that is the mixture of 2 things: accounting standards and ethical matter. Most of the times examiner examine the thing in a way, a very distinct position with the ethics matter, a very distinct position with ethics matter, and accounting issues. You will easily find out how to handle the ethics in the question and how to handle the accounting issues. It's very simple. It's not very much challenging. That's the first thing. Moreover, you can ask a question. Sir, there are 5 areas of the syllabus. Accounting issues. Number 2, ethics. Number 3, conceptual framework. Number 4, current development. Number 5, performance measurement. 5 things. Sir, is any other part of the syllabus examiner examine here? A part of accounting issue, ethics, other than this? Yes, examiners sometimes also incorporate some performance measurement issues. Not very technical, but a little bit. So some area of performance measurement affect in that particular question. Number 3. So 3 areas of the syllabus integrated here. Accounting standards, ethics, a little bit about performance measurement. Sir, can examiner examine the conceptual framework here? Yes, examiner can examine. Just 1 time or 2 time examiner a little bit examine conceptual framework. Otherwise, conceptual framework independently integrate with question 3 and 4. But examiner can examine. And I don't think so that any current development is a part of section A question 2. I don't think so that. Except something about cryptocurrency and like this. But this is, I must say, this is not about current development aspects. So for that's important. The very first thing. Number 2, there is a misconception with respect to the student that question 2 is about ethics. No, question 2 includes ethics. If I say spend 21 hours, I'm not saying spend 21 hours for ethics. Today's agenda is about how to handle question number 2. How to handle question 2. Question 2 includes ethics. Question 2, not exclusively ethics. It's ethics is 1 part and the scope is 7 marks. Other things, accounting standard, performance measurement, some areas, and how to handle professional marks. So if I say 21 hours, so that means 21 hours to handle the 20 marks question. So let's assume that by next 1 week, if you have attempted, if you simulated, if you practice the question for how to handle question 2, 20 marks, that means 20% of the paper you have prepared before the exam, or I must say 3 weeks ago the exam or 2 weeks ago the exam. And now you are preparing for remaining 80 marks question. So that is your confidence builder. That's something your mind will motivate you. Okay, I have done 20 marks. Now I have to work out for question 1 for 30. Then I will discuss how to handle more 30. That's 50 is over. Out of 50, I will take inshallah by 40, 42, 45. Then remaining 50, how to cross first 50 marks, then move on accordingly. That is the way you have to move accordingly with that last 1 month. That's important. So the very important thing, you have to clarify this misconception that question 2 is about ethics. No, question 2 is your motivation factor. That includes ethics and accounting issues as well. Performance measurement as well. And maybe the conceptual framework. Are you people getting the point, what I'm saying here? That's important. Of course, this area of the syllabus includes This area of syllabus includes the ethics, the ethics. So first of all, we must have to aware that what specific issue of ethics we need to consider. This is what about the exam scope, whatever I have discussed here. I strongly suggest you have to read this article, examiner article about the ethics with the digital age. First of all, this document with this document, I have already mentioned the knowledge area of ethics. The knowledge area. I suggest that this document is good enough about the knowledge area of ethics. You don't need to refer the book for the knowledge area, only for the knowledge area. Do remember that knowledge examiner will not test only knowledge, but application of the knowledge. The ethics includes two parts. The ethics includes two parts. Number one, the ACCA rule book for the code of conduct or code of ethics, which as a professional accountant, we must have to follow. We must have to aware that a very basic points, that integrity, objectivity, professional competence, confidentiality, and the professional behavior. These are the things we have to obey. So good knowledge about this for these things. The situation may arise. The situation may arise, which we have facing the threats. The situation may arise the threats about self-interest, self-review, advocacy, familiarity, and pressurizing to someone, intimidation. These are the points. And these threats actually affect or compromising the code of ethics. Code of ethics. That is the point. So in any of the case, we need to identify, is there anything about the threats? And that is the reverse working. Some indication about the threats that affect to the code of conducts. That's the key point. That is the key point. Now, the very important point, an impression in your mind for this. An impression in your mind about this. An impression for this. That's an important point. In any of the real business situation, how to deal ethical issue. How to develop the case and handle the situation. Of course, this is about the business case, but it's specific to accounting issue. It's not about the audit case. It's not about a tax case. It's not about the business strategy case. It's about some ethical issue related to accounting matter. So the steps you have to follow or you have to bear in your mind. Number one, the first step is identify the relevant facts. For example, if the case about accounting issues, for example, some accounting treatment, it's something wrong here. It's something manipulation here. It's accounting issue. That's the facts. That is a fact. If there is a concern point for the related party, for example, I'm a director of a company and my wife has a significant sharing in that same company. And the situation is that in a particular scenario of the company, there is some situation about restructuring due to the COVID-19 matter. But this is what the COVID-19 effect to the business, and we are here to plan something about restructuring. But this is confidential. The board of directors, including me, this is the confidential information and we don't want to leakage that information. But my wife at my home having significant influence. So there is a concern point. If we live together, should I disclose that information? Yes or no? That is the point. So this is other than accounting. An examiner can examine. For example, I am newly appointed trainee of ACCA trainee appointed. I just started my job and I will be permanent employee, subject to this if I spend 6 months time, and after that I will become the permanent employee. So I can terminate, and you as an employee can also terminate me during 6 months time. During the initial period, I've identified some issues in the company that's management is doing wrong deliberately. So I just discussed this point to the senior management, but the senior management pressurizing me, intimidating me. That's called intimidation. For the purpose of compromising some objectivity because of self-interest. So the first thing is that all of the examples identify the relevant fact, either the case about accounting issue or other than accounting issue. Number one, you must be very much clear to identify the facts. And don't be hurry. That's normally student what to do. That's a complaint from the examiner side that they are very much hurry to just plug the matter of ethics, that threats, compromising the threats, affecting to the basic principles. Don't step or don't work out with the examination in a manner that you're representing that you are working without plan. First of all, very relaxed, and initial paragraph, it's about to identify the relevant facts. That's all. Second step, first thing is that this is the fact. This is an issue. Number two, ethics. What ethical principles are compromising here? What fundamental principles are threatened? You can either explain wordings with any arrangement. First threats, then ethical principle, or first ethical principle, then threats. No worries about it. If as a director, I deliberately manipulate the accounts because of self-interest. That's threats of the self-interest. Because to exaggerate profit, because my remuneration is based on profitability. So that is the threat of self-interest. And that self-interest actually compromising the ethical principle of integrity. That's you mentioned the ethical case. So develop the ethical case with compromising the principles and threats. What are the threats? And then finally, based on that case, if examiner asks, and if the situation in a manner, then you suggest the possible courses of actions. Then you suggest the possible courses of actions. For example, if I'm a junior accountant and I have identified some case, but nobody here to listen my points carefully, then I have what are the possible course of actions I can work out for this. For example, discuss the scenario with the other senior management, other executive, non-executive directors. Seek help to the ACCA helpline. Legal, I can take some legal advices. And finally, if it's nothing, it's possible, maybe possible, act as a whistleblower. But there, if you are the part of the whistleblower, be ready to face too much pressure towards the to the whistleblower who actually performed the whistleblower. Society and the managements and the other community, it's maybe possible that also criticize you. So you have to handle that pressure. And if it's not about the whistleblowing, the other point is that you can resign the case like this. So this is what about the alternative course of actions. It's not necessary that always we have to mention the alternative course of actions. For example, the case may be about the ethics, and my response, me in the company as a director, So I'm a director and I am deliberately manipulating the accounts. So examiner not expecting with my case to discuss any alternative course of actions. Just examiner expecting that just identify the facts and ethical principle and threats. That's all. So this is about how to deal the ethical case. What I personally suggest to you that, for example, if this is a basic case, this is the basic case, and my regular students knows very well that this is what about a question with a mid-mock. I just examined that question with the mid-mock. I wanted to discuss that point here. For example, the case MASH has a number of investment in listed shares that are designated to be measured at fair value through OCI. Okay. A new ACCA qualified accountant has started work at MASH, and she discovered that the finance director measure fair value of this investment as present value of expected dividend receipts. Means IFRS 13 fair value measurement say level 1 input, if not available, then use level 2 or 3. Do you agree that with respect to the IFRS 13? That is the financial asset that designate to be measured at fair value through OCI. And if fair value at level 1 meets, then no need to go for level 2 or level 3. That is the point. Unobservable input, this calculation gives high fair value figure than quoted share price observable input. The finance director has justified this fair value measurement to the accountant on the grounds that MASH does not trade shares in the short term. So quoted share price understate the value and MASH will realize over the life of these investments. So the justification of this IFRS 13 is wrong. Justification of this IFRS 13 is totally wrong. Totally wrong. So actually, here, ACCA qualified accountant identified that issue of the finance director. Here, the requirement for ethical issue, the personality to the answer for accountant. Discuss why finance director accounting issue major not in line with IFRS, and discuss the ethical issue that arise. Two things here. Accounting issues is separate and ethical issues is separate. A very important and key point, a very important and key point here. Very important and key point here. Listen carefully. A very important and key point here. These are two separate things. You have, if there are some accounting issues, you have to identify the accounting issue independent, make heading accounting issues, IFRS 13, and work out accordingly. And separate heading ethical issue and develop the case. Identify the case, ethics, action point if it's required, with specific wordings. With specific wordings. Come on. The number one, if this type of question means ethics type question you are working. So some of the statements, some of the workings are very standard, which can use these standard wordings can use to get professional marks. How to get professional marks? You will get professional marks in a way that how to develop the case of ethics. For example, if you develop your answer with these logical sequence, not in haphazard manner, automatically you will get 2 marks. What does that mean? How to handle that ethical issue. You just, what is the right way? What is the professional way? The professional way is that whatever the issue here, identify the facts. Then develop the ethical case, compromising ethical principle, threats, and what fundamental principles are threatened. And then if the situation is about accountant here, then what alternative course of action? If you follow this sequence, automatically you will be able to get the 2 marks, professional marks. Normally, I say that 4 professional marks, 2 ethics, 2 performance measurement, that are free marks. Before, I must say that before starting of the exam of SBR, even you are at home, even at that point, the revision, the working must be in a manner you must say that before the exam, the 4 marks is in my pocket. Is in my pocket, 4 marks. Actually, I will perform the exam for 96 marks. 4 marks in my pocket, I will handle accordingly. Are you getting the point? Yes, I will tell you all the things, alternative course of action with this case. Don't worry. But the point is that how to deal with these things. Number 1, this paragraph, it's good enough to start ethical points. Standard paragraph. Financial statements are important to stakeholder who requires financial statement faithful, represent the performance position of the company so they can make the decision. The accountant should comply with fundamental ethical of principles. This is what a standard wording start with. For any ethical case, you can start with this paragraph, this one. Number one, you can memorize it, no worries. Or you just 2 or 3 times read it. Okay, you will get the idea. Now move towards the case. By following code of ethics, it is more likely that faithful representation of company will offered because needs of user will be prioritized. The accountant should be mindful of threats of fundamental ethical principles. Number one, threats. In doing so, accountant should consider relevant facts, ethical issues, fundamental principle threatens. 3 things need to consider. What are the facts? Fundamental principles, ethical issue, fundamental principles. That's the point. Then start with this main body of the answer, that is accounting implications and ethical, and then make a conclusion paragraph. The conclusion is like action point. What are the action point? Accountant must not therefore comply with management instructions. Number one. Accountant should remind the management or the management here, finance director, obligation to comply with code of conducts. These are the action points. Not obey the orders. Communicate with the management. If they are unable to approach directly, they could consider talking to those governance, in particular non-executive directors, to explain the situation. 3 things. These are the action points. Not comply, communication. First thing, this one, not comply. Number 2, communicate or remind to the finance director. If they're not convinced it's not possible, communicate with the other part of the management. Third one, they could also seek help from ACC helpline and legal advice. If the situation cannot be resolved, accountant could consider resigning and seeking employment elsewhere. These are the action points, and you can work out accordingly. It's not about bullet, huh? It's just about the wordings. These are the points you have to bear in your mind. Now start. For example, this is the case, whatever we discuss MASH. Come on. Number 1, sir, what is about the identify the facts? Identify the facts means accounting issue. In this case, identify the fact means whatever something wrong happened in the situation. If accounting issue, that is accounting matter. If something about disclosure matter, disclosure matter. So first of all, this is what about accounting. Straight accounting issue. Knowledge of IFRS 30, connect with the case. Knowledge case. Once again, knowledge and case. That's all. Then start with ethics. Number 1, starting paragraph. Standard. Standard paragraph. This is also standard paragraph. The accountant should comply with this. All these standard. These are the standard paragraph. Then start with ethical case. In this case, that issue is the threat about self-interest, compromising the principle of integrity and the objectivity. If director is unaware about the IFRS 13, that's the compromise of the professional competence. If they do deliberate, that is something threats of self-interest, compromising integrity. If that is unintentional and director unaware about IFRS 13, that is professional competence. That's the ethical matter. And then finally, the action point. Same action points, whatever we discussed already. This is the action point. What to do? Develop the case, identify the fact. This is the facts. Then start ethics. Develop the case of ethics. First of all, start journal. This is what called knowledge. I must say, knowledge of ethics. And then connect with the case. This is the case. And final action points. Finally, action point. The key principle is that either about accounting or non-accounting matter. This is the core thing you have to handle. How to deal any ethical issues. Candidates, can you please reply me? Is that clear to all of you? Back here.